That's always you'll find out 24 hours before. Plan for weeks with your hip box. You'll contact you 24 hours before.
We'll all be complaining it's too hot for you. Well, welcome everyone. Thanks for waiting. Thanks for coming along today. Obviously, it's a real privilege to have Richard Tice up in Aberdeen and the leader of the Scottish Party, Malcom Offord, here. So, I'm Duncan Massey. I am the Reform candidate for this ward, which is Aberdeen, Deeside and North Kincardine. It's actually great to be in this hotel. I actually got married here, so good to be back. So I'm also a local councillor here in Aberdeen, but I'm also a senior economist in the oil and gas industry. I've worked in the industry for over 25 years in a variety of engineering, finance and analytical roles. So obviously the industry is really key to me. It's something I'm obviously really passionate about, and for me, what's being done to our industry at the moment through daft policy, what feels like the deliberate destruction of our industry, is just, I can't really put it into words. It's just so unbelievable that we as a country can do this to one of our key industries. And obviously what's happening at the moment with the Strait of Hormuz in Iran has just shown that policy up to be absolutely wrong. Although to me it was pretty obvious it was wrong before. So, and one of the key issues why I'm standing for vote for reform, and indeed standing as a candidate, obviously, is this oil and gas industry. I think, you know, it's been totally betrayed by all the legacy parties in this country, whether that's SNP and their presumption against new oil and gas, whether that's the Conservatives with the taxes they set up and the legislation they've put in place that is blocking, you know, developments like Jackdaw and Rosebank going ahead. And obviously now Labour have just doubled down on that, increasing the tax. And in Ed Miliband, we have an absolute zealot in charge who just will not see sense and will not see pragmatism. So for me, one of the key reasons for reform, right from the get-go, it's had this pragmatic energy policy. It's been the only party that's backed our oil and gas industry from the start. I think the two individuals here have played a huge part in that. Richard Tice, right from the start, has been extremely pro-oil and gas and has seen right through the failures of our energy policy. And Malcom Offord has done a huge amount of work on energy. He really understands the space through his past work, and so I'm delighted to welcome both of them here today, and Malcolm's now going to speak. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Duncan. Nice to see you all today here in Aberdeen, a world-class centre of excellence for Scotland, which is now being traduced by ideological politicians. Bottom line is that our energy in the UK is 7 times more expensive than China and 4 times more expensive than the USA. How can we compete on a world stage with energy prices at that level? And how can we grow an economy with energy prices at that level? What is the number one issue in this election? The cost of living. What is one of the biggest factors in the cost of living? Energy. You cannot have prosperity and growth with the most expensive oil prices in the OECD. And what is completely idiotic about this is that we are sitting here where our energy system is 75% hydrocarbon and 25% non-hydrocarbon, being 10% nuclear, 10% wind and 5% biomass. 75% hydrocarbon, which we're importing from other parts of the world. We're floating on a sea of oil and gas. Our island is literally floating on a sea of oil and gas, and we're importing 70% of our gas from Norway, from North Sea fields over the fence from the ones that we are shutting down. It is madness. It is madness. And so therefore, it takes a moment in time for someone to stand up and say, enough of that. Richard Tice is in that category. He has been vocal on this now for the last 3 years, receiving a lot of brickbats along the way and a lot of abuse and a lot of criticism along the way. But Richard has been in the forefront of leading the charge. And how interesting now that the other parties are beginning to come our way. And how often are we seeing that in our Scottish campaign? How often are we hearing repetition of our key themes on the economy on energy, on cohesive communities, on pathways back to work, is almost word for word now, isn't it, across the other parties? Because we're setting the agenda, okay? Because we're not professional politicians, we're decent, ordinary people who want the country to get back to work. We want the country to work for everybody at a fair level. We can't have that with expensive energy. So this idea that we just ignore what we have in our resources. We're told it's a declining basin. Well, the Norwegians continue to keep finding new oil in this declining basin, and gas indeed. And the other argument on this is just on this idea that North Sea gas, we wouldn't get the benefit of that because it goes on to international gas markets. It doesn't need to. We can set up a domestic market for North Sea gas, which is what the Americans did. They used shale gas as their transition fuel. The Chinese are using coal as their transition fuel. We need North Sea gas as our transition fuel. And yes, we can still have a balanced scorecard. We can have a balanced system, but it needs to work for everybody. It needs to be merchant viable. So that is where we are. We've just come from the Chamber of Commerce, Richard and I, with a very strong representation from the oil and gas industry there, but also a range of other industries in the northeast. And whether it's in fisheries, whether it's in agri, whether it's in creative industries, they all come back to the same thing, which is there's no growth because our energy is too expensive. It comes back to the same thing. You cannot grow a modern economy with expensive energy. It just can't be done. So reform is first onto that. As they say, imitation is the best form of flattery. But we're winning this argument. We're in the forefront of this argument. And a lot of that is down to Richard Tice. So I'm going to ask Richard to come now. This is obviously a very big issue for us in Scotland, but recognising it's a reserved matter. So we need Westminster. We need to, Hollywood, this is an area where Hollywood and Westminster need to be in lockstep on this. And we absolutely need reform to come into government in 2029 to fix this. We can mitigate in Scotland through Hollywood. We can mitigate around, for example, the ban on nuclear. We can mitigate around some of the ideological spend that we're wasting on net zero pet projects. But fundamentally, we need London and Westminster to come on board on the strategy. So it's my great pleasure to introduce Richard, because I know that we are on the same page on this. Let's get into Hollywood first. Let's get into Westminster. Let's give ourselves a chance to be the most prosperous part of the UK. Thank you.
Thank you, Malcolm, and good afternoon, everybody. It's great to see you all here. It's great to be here in Aberdeen, not only an incredible place within Scotland, within the UK, but of course a global centre of energy expertise. And my goodness me, with everything that's going on in the world at the moment, has there ever been a more important time to understand the importance of having our own secure supply of energy? Oh, goodness me. Well, thank heavens we bought the candles now. Maybe they're from Red Ed Miliband. We've got two candles here. It'll set off the fire alarms if we light them, but look, that little stump was to make a point, which is that actually, in all seriousness, just over a year ago, NESO got their numbers wrong, and we nearly ran out of electricity. We nearly had blackouts in the United Kingdom in the same way that Spain had them last year. And as Malcolm said, to think that we are an island, on an island of energy treasure, of oil and gas, and yet we could run out of electricity. And what's everybody talking about? Everybody's talking about not only the price of electricity, but also the risk of blackouts and rationing. It's completely and utterly insane. And our detractors will say, well, there's nothing we can do about the price of gas. It's set on the international markets. Well, actually, I called out the Secretary of State for Energy, Ed Miliband, in the Chamber a couple of weeks back. I said he was misleading, inadvertently, the House of Commons and the British people. And here's the proof that there is a domestic price of gas, because in the last 5 weeks, in the United States, the wholesale price of gas on the Henry Hub Index has not moved. It has stayed, give or take, flat. What's happened to the price of UK natural gas in the last 5 weeks? Give or take, it's up 60%. So please don't anybody, whether it's in the House of Commons or anywhere else, say that there is an international price of gas. It's garbage, and we have to get that message home to everybody. If we use our own gas, then we can have cheap, domestically priced gas, and that will bring our bills down. That will bring the cost of living down. We've been lied to, and we have to call it out. We've been misled, we've been lied to, and it is simply not right. And of course, and this is the key thing, in the 80s and 90s, when North Sea was generating incredible growth here in Aberdeenshire, incredible growth across Scotland, incredible growth, 2.5% to 4% per annum GDP growth across the whole of the UK because we had cheap, reliable, competitively priced energy. Well, I think the clue's in the fact, now we're growing at, oh, I'm so sorry, we're not growing at all. Flat, zero. Rachel Reeves breaks out the champagne if we get to 0.1%. I mean, it's ridiculous, seriously. So we have to change course. And as Malcolm touched on, I think other parties are beginning to wake up. We've got Labour MPs writing to Ed Miliband and the Chancellor saying, actually, you need to change course. We've got the SNP realising that they need to change course. We have led the way. Reform UK has led the way on this for the last few years. And it's been fun. And I feel that we're making good progress. And so today I'm very proud to announce, as the Reform spokesman for business, trade and energy, a critical 4-point plan. The first is that we need to approve all of the existing drilling consents for Rosebank, for Jackdaw. Oh, as if by magic, there we have. Here we have our consent application. Hopefully on the live stream you can see it as well. Approved by Reform UK. Drilling consent for Rosebank and Jackdaw. I think that's absolutely vital. And that will gives a sign of confidence to people. And I know the Tories, let's just remember who actually caused the problem in the first place. It was the Tories. Who introduced net zero? It was the Tories. Who introduced the energy profits levy, the windfall tax? Oh, it was the Tories. Who actually didn't give the drilling consents for Rosebank and for Jackdaw? It was the Tories. And now they come Johnny-come-lately saying, oh, we quite like it after all. Unbelievable. Never forgive and never forget. The other thing we do as part one of my four-point plan is that we have to give a clear message to the oil and gas industry that we are deadly serious. We want those companies, be they domestic or international, to get ready to invest back here in the UK. And that's why we need to rename the NSTA, the North Sea Transition Authority. We need to take it back to being the Oil and Gas Authority. And, critically, we need to change its statutory mandate. That should be maximum economic recovery. As far as I'm concerned, frankly, every last barrel, every last drop, because it's our energy treasure, it creates jobs here, it creates wealth here and prosperity and gives us low competitive energy prices. So we have to do this. If not, the tragedy is when you see industries up and down the country, including recently at Grangemouth and elsewhere in Scotland, you see seriously fantastic businesses, energy-intensive businesses, shutting, closing, because they're uncompetitive. We say, no, let's change course, we can do much better. So that's the first key point. The next point is that we have to get rid of the windfall tax, the energy profits levy, that was introduced by the Tories. And we have to incentivise the industry, and we have to look internationally at what works elsewhere. Well, we don't actually have to go very far, do we? We only have to pop across to our good friends in Norway. And in 2025, I think they drilled 49 new wells. How many did we drill in the UK? 0. Niente, zip, nothing at all. And that's just frankly a humiliation. And in Norway, they have an exploration refund scheme in order to incentivise independent firms, all sorts of domestic and international firms to explore in the Norwegian part of the North Sea. And we need to look at introducing something similar here. And we need to talk to the industry, listen to the industry. We've been doing it this morning, and we'll continue to do it over the coming months to come up with the right scheme, what I call a bonus sharing scheme that creates a win-win for everybody, that incentivises the oil and gas exploration companies to explore, to invest, and to produce. And then also that gives us, the taxpayer, also a suitable revenue-based reward as that success comes through. Norway do it incredibly successfully. The opportunity for what I've talked about recently, a British sovereign wealth fund, which could be one of the top 8 in the world, to invest in companies that invest in the North Sea, just like the Norwegian sovereign wealth funds invests in Equinor. And that's why Norway has done so well. And I think we have to be humble enough to learn lessons from how other people do it. And it's not just approving licenses, of course, offshore. Actually, we need to look at onshore. I mean, I'm a Lincolnshire MP, and in Lincolnshire, there is shale gas to the tune of potentially a decade's worth, give or take, of UK gas demand. And there are a variety of techniques for extracting it. We should be extracting everything we possibly can, safely, of course. But it is literally what transformed the US economy, as Malcolm said, some 20 years ago, from being an energy importer to being using their own domestic energy, their own domestic gas, and then become an energy exporter. We can have the same. We can have cheap energy, cheap gas, cheap electricity once again. That's what we need to do. That's the second key element, absolutely, of all of these applications. So, first up, we approved the licenses. We changed the name of the NSTA back to the AGA. Secondly, we get rid of the windfall tax. We incentivise businesses to invest back in the North Sea and onshore as well. Absolutely vital. The third thing we need to do in our 4-point plan is we have to get rid of in entirety net stupid zero, of course. And my goodness me, Redhead, steam comes out of his ears when I use that expression in the chamber. And as part of that, of course, we have to get rid of the emissions trading scheme, which is adding cost to businesses. And those in the Labour Party seem to forget that if you add a cost to business, they don't just suck it up, they have to pass it on to all of us as consumers in higher costs, higher bills. And guess what? That leads to higher cost of living and higher inflation. So if we reduce the costs on businesses, then we reduce the cost of living, or the rate of growth of it. So we have to get rid of the whole of the emissions trading scheme. Oh, who introduced it? Oh, it was the Tories. Never forgive, never forget. And if Labour take us, which they have promised to do, into the EU emissions trading scheme, where the levels are at an even higher level, then we will, of course, come out of that as well. Because all that is doing is making us less competitive. Those are the first 3 points of my 4-point plan. The fourth point is also really, really important. Regulation. Regulatory reform. We all want smart and safe regulations across all of our industries. And oil and gas is absolutely critical. We understand that. Smart and safe. But what businesses tell me is they don't want the daft, the dither and the delay at every level. Unproductive regulation that just adds costs and achieves the square root of zero. And of course, if you're adding cost to businesses, then they have to pass that on to us consumers. Or they might say, and we were hearing it just this morning, they might say the cost of getting planning, getting the licenses is so great, I'm not going to make the investment decision in the first place. And that's the key thing. And these are all cumulative impacts as to why we end up with businesses not investing, entrepreneurs not taking risks, investors saying, we're going to go elsewhere. And that is a disaster. And that leads us to where we are with zero growth. And you read in the Times in the last 24 hours that investors in oil and gas have promised approaching £20 billion of investment could be unleashed into the North Sea, into Scotland, through Aberdeen and elsewhere, if these licenses are approved. But our Red Ed, he's there, rock solid, trying to resist the tidal wave that is about to engulf him. It's not good enough, because we know that investment can generate growth, it can generate jobs, it can generate prosperity, and with all of that, if you have an increased supply of anything, in this case energy, guess what happens to the price? It goes down. That's the point. And that's why we have to make these changes. That's why I've been banging on about it for years. And that's why now, actually, given the international events, other parties, finally, they are listening and learning from us at Reform UK. They're beginning to see the light. And, when they copy us, it's a form of flattery. We're delighted to share our brilliant ideas with other parties. So, ladies and gentlemen, that four-point plan is how we can get the North Sea back on track. It's how we can get growth back into Aberdeen, growth back into Scotland, growth back into the United Kingdom, and it's how we can bring the cost of living down, and it's how we can bring our bills down. Thank you very much indeed. Excellent. So, as always, we take questions from our good friends in the press, and the press are wonderfully kind and generous to us. Always. Ben Phillip from the BBC, I hope. Ben, hi there. Good afternoon.
You have been setting out your four-point plan just before. Thank you for that. How quickly can Sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear, Ben.
Absolutely. How quickly can North Sea drilling actually lead to an increased domestic supply? And what is the evidence that that would actually bring down bills directly for households? And on those policies as well, how would you ensure that the environment would be protected as well?
Thank you, Ben. So, with regard to the environment, well, that's the whole point of having regulatory authorities, whatever it's called. We want to call it the Oil and Gas Authority, as it was. That's all about smart and safe regulation. We're really good at it in this country. With regard to the quantity of supply, well, we hear from the developers and the owners of the licenses for Jackdaw that they could be bringing some supply within 12 months, a matter of months with approval. Now, I'm not saying that's an instant complete transformation, but our overall objective, we have to get back to the sort of levels we had 15 years ago. We have to increase our supply by at least 50% from where we are. And it is basic economics. It's literally A-level economics. If you increase the supply of something, the price of that good will come down. And so the sooner we do it, the sooner this government gets on with it, then, and part of the condition of the licences can be, as Malcolm touched on, can be that it is used and sold domestically. And you can have long-term procurement contracts. Guess what? We can do things differently. We can innovate in this country. We're quite good at that when we set our mind to it. So we can absolutely bring that in. And I think the proof is what I said earlier. Just look at the US gas price. When they changed course 20 years ago, when they started extracting shale gas, all of a sudden, the whole thing changed. And instead of the US having a higher gas price than the UK, they've now got a dramatically lower gas price. And they haven't been affected on their gas price by the international events. I think we should be prepared and humble enough to learn from how other countries do things better than we do. Thank you, Ben. STV, Stephen Brown.
Thank you very much. A quick question to you both, if you don't mind. Mr. Offord, first of all, you might have seen there's a new poll out today that suggests that Reform, while tied second on both constituency and list vote, wouldn't win a constituency in this election. Do you think that that would then be a bad result for your party in this election? And to Mr. Tice, you talk about getting rid of net zero stupid. There will also be an awful lot of firms, you will be aware here, investing in renewables and looking towards that. They may question that rhetoric and wonder why then they should continue to invest if a Reform government is putting out the narrative and rhetoric like that. Thank you.
So taking our Holyrood election first, as you know, we've been in second place now for a matter of months now, and in the MRP poll about 3 weeks ago, we were second in 54 constituencies out of 73. Now, there's not a single pundit, there's not a single pollster who's saying that Reform will win a constituency. They're saying we will get a number of MPs, but only through the list system. But the challenge for us, and we're up for the challenge, is that we can convert in 54 seats, we can win constituencies. Am I going to make a prediction here? No. But do I believe that Reform can win constituencies? Yes. And that's what the focus of the next 4 weeks will be for us.
Brilliant. And in a sense, that's the challenge. The harder you work, right to the finishing line, the better the chance we've got. And our message to voters, of course, here in Scotland, as across the whole of the UK, is very simple. If you vote Reform, you get Reform, and if you want Reform, vote Reform. With regard to net zero, look, I think the point is, just because I use that language, it's the concept of net zero that is flawed. You know, wind technology and renewables, they can have a place in a wonderful, diverse mix of energy, but what's not fair is that they get huge subsidies on now ever longer contracts. They used to have 15-year contracts. Now they've got 20-year contracts when everybody else is penalised. That's not fair. And we know that history clearly shows that oil and gas has worked for the United Kingdom. And there's that old expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I think we can go back to an incredible mix. I think we can also look forward. There's other incredible technologies coming down the pipe over the next 15 to 30 years, things like step fusion and like, who knows? So let's embrace them all. But please don't tell me that renewables are cheaper and then in the next breath say that you want a 30% increase in your guaranteed price and you want a 30% increase in the duration of the contract. Something doesn't compute. And we've had the courage to call it out. Thank you, Stephen. The Press Association, Craig Megan. If I pronounced that right, sorry.
Yeah, that's perfect, thanks. Just one to you first, Malcom Offord. It's reported today that you missed weekend election campaigning because you were in a yachting competition in the English Channel. Are you a part-time leader? And then one for you, Mr. Tice. Given that Reform Scotland's Holyrood campaign has been engulfed in chaos, does the London leadership regret appointing him as leader?
I'm trying to take this seriously. I mean, heaven forbid a man has a hobby, right, and takes a day off at Easter. I think we can move that one on to you, Richard.
Well, no, I think I'm just actually quite glad that Malcolm didn't invite me because I'm not very good as a yachtsman. But I did enjoy my church service in Boston on Sunday. So maybe, you know, maybe we've sort of shared the love and the hobbies. But in all seriousness, Malcolm and the team are doing an incredible job. We've gone from nowhere in the polls. Everybody sort of 12, 18 months ago said we won't get any MSPs. And under Malcolm's leadership and the whole incredible team here, I think remarkable things are going to happen. And you know, the job of the press is to scrutinise us. And of course, there are potholes in the roads. Some call them bumps. Potholes in council campaigns is a key thing. And we drive through the potholes and we will fill them in. That's our objective across the UK and the councils that we win. So we're pushing on. And we're very proud of what everybody in Scotland is doing, as we are of all our, I think, almost 5,000 candidates across the UK. The Press and Journal, Denny Andanova.
Thank you very much. Hi. A bit more local question, but in the North East you're up against some veteran politicians. This word, Aberdeen, Deeside, North Kincardine specifically. You've got Stephen Flynn and Liam Kerr. How do you plan to get ahead? They have very similar promises, especially when it comes to the energy policies. What makes reform so different and what's your edge?
Stephen Flynn needs to convince his boss of which way they want to go. I mean, they are having internal gymnastics on this matter, and obviously he knows what works for his constituency, but that has not been the policy of the SNP over the last 19 years, a presumption against oil, new licences in oil and gas. And the public look at this and see mixed messages, and all you can then do is look at the track record. The track record of the SNP is that they are not in favour of the oil and gas industry. So I think the public will decide on that basis, and we will put forward up here a very strong case, which has been consistent all the way through, that we back this industry and that we back it in the North East of Scotland.
Fantastic. Thank you. Thank you. The Herald, Rebecca McCurdy.
Thank you. If I could ask a question to both of you. Firstly, to Malcolm, how long do you expect your leadership of reform in Scotland to last, given how disastrous this campaign has been so far? And then for yourself, Richard, Nigel Farage... Well, yes, but also Nigel Farage appeared to throw you under the bus over your former housing spokesman and his comments on Grenfell. Is there a bit of a rift forming in reform?
So, on our Scottish campaign, I have to tell you how incredibly proud I was a couple of Thursdays ago when we unveiled 73 candidates for Reform UK and Scotland. What an extraordinary achievement for a new party that only 2 years ago had 0.2% of the vote, and today's got 20% of the vote in Scotland. And what I'm most proud of is that 80% of our candidates... What I'm most proud of is that 80% of our candidates have not been politicians before. These are real people who've achieved real things in life, who've got real hobbies as well. And if you look at the roster of the SNP, 73, I think they've got one who's not a professional politician out of 73. And we go along to the Aberdeen Chamber of Commerce and we say, business people say they can't get planning permission to expand their business because they're dealing with politicians who don't understand anything about business. And what reform is going to be is come in with a group of people who don't need to do this, frankly, but are doing this because they're sufficiently motivated to fix the system. They're giving up their own lives and jobs to come and make a difference to this. So I'm incredibly proud of Reform UK in Scotland. And yes, we may have some bumps in the road, but isn't that the whole joy of running a campaign, is that we navigate those bumps and we get through it together.
Thank you. And I'm incredibly proud of what Malcolm and the whole team of candidates are achieving. And Rebecca, you need to do your research better, because actually it was me that took the decision to say to Simon Dudley that he could no longer be the spokesman for housing, and then I informed Nigel. It's as simple as that. We're an incredible team, we're incredibly close, we're working incredibly hard, and yes, we too, we do occasionally take the odd half hour or hour, or maybe the odd day off as well, to re-energise for this incredible campaign. So I hope that helps. The Scotsman, Andrew Quinn. Go for it.
So recent polls have had reform actually falling in Scotland kind of for the first time in a while. Richard, is that because of Malcolm's leadership?
You may have missed, Andrew, that actually, in a sense, polls don't go up in a straight line. I mean, we'd love them to, but of course, the higher the polls go, you get closer to, it gets harder to increase them ever further. So that's actually what's happened across the UK, is that, and things, move around. The poll that matters is the poll on May the 7th. But we are getting some clues every Thursday when there are by-elections. And in these council by-elections, I would just gently remind everybody that Reform have won more council by-elections since the last May elections in 2025 than the Conservatives, Labour and the Greens put together. So what we're actually seeing is that the real polls, when people put their cross on the ballot paper, those actually, I think it shows there's a lot of shy reformers out there who are delighted to actually to vote Reform, but sometimes when someone puts a puts a sort of survey in front of them, they might just wonder. So we're doing great, but of course we're ambitious. We want to do better and better, and that's why we've got to keep working incredibly hard.
Why are they shy?
Sorry?
Why do you think they're shy?
Because some people like you, good friends in the press, might be sometimes a little bit beastly to them. No.
You've seen our front page today. We've got a story about Police Scotland giving out rape alarms to schoolgirls down in Dumfries. Just wondered, it's in relation to there's concerns about the migrant hotel, about the kids being stalked by people in the migrant hotel. What do you make of this? Are you shocked by this? Is this something you would want to see rolled out across Scotland, or would you be concerned if it was rolled out across Scotland?
I think we are all very shocked by that. And we've known that we've got a major issue around that in Glasgow. When we go to rural areas, that's actually moving, into a higher level. What this subject to me is all about is listening to local people. That is only happening because local people are raising concerns. The police are there to respond to those concerns. The police wouldn't be doing this if there weren't real concerns. And that is what Reform is doing on this issue. It is reflecting back what local people say to us in their communities. People who are welcoming to strangers. We've got a fine tradition in Scotland of always doing that. But we've got a situation where communities are no longer cohesive. Local people are worried, and it evidences itself in something like that. And we will take that seriously. We will give voice to that. And we won't be cowed by other parties saying we shouldn't be talking about this issue, because if it wasn't an issue, the police would not be doing what they're doing there.
Thank you. The Telegraph, Jacob Friedland.
Hi, thank you. Just talking about the same polls that Andrew here referenced. Richard, this is for you. Was it a mistake to have independent supporting candidates running for a unionist party? And Malcolm, for you, I've been told that the vetting process did identify some of the controversial comments that the candidates had on social media, and they were cleared anyway. Why was that? If the process threw up those comments, and do you accept that it was a mistake to go ahead with them despite that?
Do you want me to take that first?
Yeah, you take that first.
So we had a very comprehensive vetting process. At the end of the day, we do believe in something in the UK and Scotland, which is the right of free speech. And we don't always agree with what everyone says, and sometimes we actually feel that we, personally, I would not have said some of those comments. But also, we're talking about a number of people who, as I say, are real people who are on their journey to public life. And I'm not here to judge people's previous opinions, so long as we are clear that within the project that we are promoting, that we are honest and clear about what we're trying to do. And it's a slippery slope going down into everybody's Twitter account over the last 10 years. And I took a decision where we're not going to do that.
So you did know that?
Yeah.
Thank you. So with regard to the issue about, do you know what, sometimes as we get older, people can reflect on their decisions. And in the same way that lots of people who voted Remain then realise that actually Brexit is the right answer, as long as you do the job properly, then so other people can change their mind. And you know, we welcome all people who believe in what we believe in, which is restoring this great country, generating growth, generating prosperity, and to do that, I bring us back to the need for cheap energy. It is as simple as that, and reliable energy. The Guardian, Libby Brooks.
Thanks so much. Just following on from Jacob's question around independence, I wanted to ask, is Reform's position on a second independence referendum sustainable if, as the polling suggests, is a very strong possibility we end up with nationalist governments in Scotland, in Wales and Northern Ireland after May?
Do you want to pick up Scotland?
Well, in Scotland, we are saying that we're the party of enough talk of referendum. We don't want to talk about it. The people have got no interest in it. There's no appetite for it. And therefore, can we just not talk about it and get on with making Scotland the most successful part of the UK?
And what we should be talking about is actually how do we make people better off at the end of the week, at the end of every month? How do we create some prosperity, and how do we bring the bills down? And that is what our total focus is on. Thank you, Libby. Last but most definitely not least, the Scottish Daily Mail, Michael Blackley.
Hi, thanks very much. Richard, you talk about some potholes in the road. Do you accept that some of the problems have been internal? There seems to be a fair bit of unrest internally about the selection process. Do you think there's been mistakes made there? And on one of these concerns, the #1 candidate in the Highlands and Islands regional list, a lot of people in the party don't have any idea who this is. So can you name him, and have you ever met him?
Are you talking to me or to Malcolm?
You can deal with it. Vic Curry is the candidate for Shetland. He is a resident doctor working in the NHS. He's doing incredible service for his community where he lives at the moment. And we do not have a candidate for Shetland. He's put his hand up to move up to Shetland to serve the people of Shetland. I think he deserves a massive round of applause.
Have you both met him?
Yes.
Have you met him, Richard?
I haven't, because obviously, you know, I'm involved in the national campaign. Malcolm and his team are doing a fantastic job.
I was with him in Perth last night. We had our regular meeting in Perth for all the members. It was a big, boisterous affair. You'd have enjoyed it, Michael. I might even have smiled.
Michael, it's quite hard for me to meet 5,000 candidates across the whole of the UK, but we are doing our best. And
as well, can you confirm exactly how many candidates have supported independence in the past, and how many are relaxed about an independence referendum, as the candidate in John Swinney's constituency is?
Yes. We have a very small number. I'm going to name. We've got 3 people out of our 73 who have had a tendency in the past. It doesn't matter. They're on their journey to where what they want. What they want is Scotland to be the most successful part of the UK, and they feel badly let down by the SNP, who it turns out are not serious about anything other than staying in power for another 5 years.
The key thing about potholes is let's fix them, and that's the key thing. Unless I've missed anybody out, does anybody from the press feel that they've been missed out? If not, thank you very much indeed. Lovely to see you all. Look forward to chatting afterwards, and If you want reform, vote reform. Well done. Brilliant. Well done.